Right now at 6, orders issued and Guard members called up.
You know, shields, batons, those type of civil unrest type tooling.
We hear directly from their command as troops mobilize to deploy in Portland. Plus, other cities facing federal intervention come together to push back.
Every single time they attack our communities, we only grow stronger.
Then, local highway safety under scrutiny after 2 deadly crashes in a matter of days. And it's not the first time.
As everybody comes, pretty much hauling down the 212.
And later, how Oregon's Capitol Rotunda is once again ready to shine.
But then when you walk into the rotunda, you're going to walk in and you go, wow, this looks really neat.
Good evening, everyone. David Mulca with you on this Tuesday, where we continue to keep a very close eye on Portland's ICE facility, with National Guard troops mobilizing and the president appearing to reject any idea of reconsidering. Right now, there appear to be a handful of protesters and just as many reporters on this block at the South Waterfront. And while we've seen crowds there grow larger in the evening hours, along with a handful of arrests, most recently as this weekend, state and local officials insist the reality on the ground does not match the president's perception, a characterization he doubled down on today.
How about Portland, Oregon, where it looks like a war zone? And I get a call from the liberal governor, sir, please don't come in. We don't need you. I said, well, unless they're playing false tapes, this looked like World War II. Your place is burning down.
The White House and the Pentagon say the plan is to protect federal property, though nearly all leaders here say the situation remains under control and the presence of troops, even the 200 that are mobilizing, would only serve to fan said flames. Meanwhile, Oregon's stopgap lawsuit to prevent the National Guard from being deployed is set for an emergency hearing on Friday morning. Once again, we have live team coverage this evening, beginning with Kyle Aboshi in Salem. And Kyle, you spoke with the senior officer who will lead those National Guard troops. What did he tell you?
A team from the U.S. Army's Northern Command just arrived in Oregon. They'll be meeting with the National Guard within the next 24 hours to figure out logistics. Then troops will be assembled and briefed on their mission.
The Oregon National Guard is ramping up its deployment of troops. 200 members have volunteered for service. They'll be led by Lieutenant Colonel Charles Patzner.
We understand that we'll be doing some federal facility protection, some federal employee protection activities, but that's about all we know at this time.
Patzner said troops could be on the ground in Portland by later this week, following President Trump's deployment, ordering 200 members of the Oregon National Guard into federal service for 60 days.
How about Portland, Oregon, where it looks like a war zone?
For several months, a small group of demonstrators gathered in front of the ICE facility in southwest Portland, leading to occasional clashes with federal agents protecting the building. Oregon's Attorney General filed a lawsuit and sought a restraining order trying to block Trump from carrying out the deployment.
As Americans, we do not believe that we should be using U.S. military forces on our streets in America.
The Oregon National Guard is typically reserved for disaster relief, such as wildfires, flooding, or helping medical staff during the pandemic. In 2020, then Governor Kate Brown activated the Guard briefly to support police during protests. It's not clear yet if Guard members will be armed while deployed in Portland. Patzner says these troops are specially trained and equipped to handle civil disobedience.
You know, shields, batons, those type of civil unrest type tooling, yeah.
Can they make arrests?
No, and so right now we're in support of law enforcement, and so we will not be doing any civil arresting.
The Oregon National Guard expects to get a lot more information after meeting with the U.S. Army's Northern Command, specifically things about like logistics, such as housing, equipment, directives, where they'll be stationed, and what buildings they might protect in Portland specifically. Total cost for this deployment, an estimated $3.8 million paid for with federal tax dollars.
Now nearly $4 million and still a lot of questions tonight. Kyle Aboshi, appreciate your reporting there. Well, at this point, it appears the National Guard plan to focus on the ICE facility near Portland's South Waterfront, as we have been saying. While we've seen occasional vandalism, violence, and yes, arrests among the largely peaceful demonstrations, the data does show that the unrest is nowhere near the scale of what the Rose City experienced in 2020. Evan Watson's live outside the ICE building with some key context. Evan?
Yeah, David, there are about a dozen people or so here protesting on this rainy Tuesday. And probably, as you mentioned, just as many media members. If we had the 200 National Guard members here, they'd outnumber maybe 10 to 1 the people who are out here today. We have seen some cars leaving and entering the ICE facility as people end their work days. But all this brings into question, how do we get here? The context of the arrests and when those really peaked, what does that look like? Well, protests at the ICE facility building here on the South Waterfront started in June, and they began to peak then around at the same time. In the past 4 months, federal officers have arrested more than 24 people here. Most arrests occurred in that first month of protests, June and July, and most have led to misdemeanor charges. 4 of those criminal cases have been resolved. Some of those protesters charged with failure to obey a lawful order pleaded guilty and received 6 months of probation and fines. Other cases are more serious, with defendants facing felony charges for assaulting federal officers or damaging federal property. Court documents show some security photos of alleged attacks. Portland Police Chief Bob Day said confrontations have been relatively minimal in the weeks leading up to President Trump now activating the National Guard.
The fact of the matter is, and it's been highlighted so many times so well, but I just want to emphasize, this is one city block. City of Portland is about 145 square miles. This is one city block. And even the events that are happening down there do not rise to the level of attention that they are receiving. We're in good shape. I don't see the need for the National Guard at this time. I really believe that we've got a handle on it.
So through our analysis of court records and by most metrics, the protests and the tension really peaked back in late June and early July, which is leading many Portlanders to figure out and say to themselves that this feels out of step with the reality of what they're seeing here at the waterfront. Still, the National Guard's activation has brought more people and more attention to this facility in the last couple of days. Just not right now at this moment when there aren't many people out here to begin with. David?
Yeah, good point and good context. Evan Watson breaking down the numbers. Appreciate it.
What they want is for us to be divided and to be scared and to be by ourselves and isolated. And instead, what you're seeing is that we are coming together.
This evening, from coast to coast, city leaders are joining together to condemn a growing federal military presence in their communities. They say the surge of National Guard and federal agents is creating fear and intimidation, while the Trump administration defends it as a public safety operation. And with the president's new comments today, even a training opportunity. Libby Dowsett has more.
Every single time they attack our communities, we only grow stronger.
Strong reactions from community leaders meeting for a cross-country news conference Tuesday, following President Trump's latest comments on his use of the military and how he perceives the state of Portland.
I called her back. I said, this place is a nightmare.
City leaders from D.C. to L.A. say the only nightmare is the recent deployment of National Guard and federal officers in their communities.
For us, it was a siege. They invaded our community.
Troops have been walking down neighborhood streets, waterfront parks. The federal surge forces have been at soccer games, football games, in front of schools. Children have seen people kidnapped from in front of schools.
In Tennessee, community leaders say the federal law enforcement surge is now underway. 13 different federal agencies and potentially National Guard troops assigned to make Memphis safe again.
Originally, what we thought was that the U.S. Marshals were going to be conducting arrest of outstanding warrants. However, in addition to doing that, they also saturated the main streets across the city to conduct traffic stops all over the city.
The Trump administration defending these deployments and sudden surges as safety operations. The president defending the actions to his defense secretary, Pete Hegseth.
It's a war from within. I told Pete we should use some of these dangerous cities as training grounds for our military.
DC is not a training ground for the U.S. military. None of our communities are.
This group coming together to call out states like Louisiana, asking for National Guard deployments in New Orleans and other cities. Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry sending a letter to Defense Secretary Hegseth asking for up to 1,000 troops through next year to help fight crime.
If you send military troops against the people of the United States, you are abusing your power, you are disrespecting and misusing the military and our service members, and you are wasting our tax dollars.
Libby Dowsett, KGW News.
Developing this evening, 3 people have died in Boring following 2 separate crashes in just a few days. The latest causing the roof of a local pub along Highway 212 to partially collapse. A warning, the images in this story may be disturbing for some viewers. Celine Stevens has the details.
Looks like the building might be close to a total loss.
Around 6 in the morning, a vehicle crashed into Timber Pub and Grub off of Highway 212 in Boring.
I can't believe the devastation.
This video shows a vehicle zipping through the intersection before surveillance footage from the pub shows it slamming into the building.
There's going to be, probably quite a few people out of work for months now.
The owner says one employee was inside cleaning at the time, but luckily made it out safely. The driver of the vehicle died.
And this is the 4th time our buildings got hit over the years, and now the one next door, and 3 fatalities in 3 days.
This pub was also hit back in 2023. Surveillance footage then showing a truck crashing into the building.
Because everybody comes, pretty much hauling down the 212, and it's unfortunate. This keeps getting hit. I don't understand why.
But even more shockingly, a business next to the pub was hit Sunday afternoon. That crash leading to the death of the 2 people inside the vehicle and injuries to others inside the building.
We inquired with ODOT when we purchased the building about putting up some type of barrier, and we were told that there's apparently not enough room.
There is barely room for the highway shoulder and the sidewalk, and the building structure is built right up to the sidewalk.
The Oregon Department of Transportation says from 2019 to 2024, there were 22 non-deadly crashes in this area, and in recent years, they've added more safety precautions. But after these 2 deadly crashes, as they wait to hear about a cause, they say there might be more to do from a traffic engineering perspective.
2 fatal crashes within 2 days. That's something that really, really shocks us and gets us to want to take a look at it.
Celine Stevens, KGW News.
In your headlines tonight, the federal government is now on track for an imminent shutdown after Senate Democrats voted down a spending bill will try to negotiate tax credits for health care plans. They are also pushing to roll back cuts that the big beautiful bill made to Medicaid. If a shutdown happens at midnight Eastern, and the White House has already ordered agencies to begin implementing shutdown plans, millions of federal workers will not get paid and hundreds of thousands will be furloughed. McMenamins plans to turn a former low-income housing building in downtown Portland into one of its signature hotels. The city confirms the chain plans to flip the former Taft home on Southwest 14th and Burnside just behind Crystal Ballroom. An entity tied to McMenamins bought the building last year for $1.5 million. Plans include redesigning the 2nd through 4th floors and possible additions like a sky bridge and a coffee bar. No word yet on a timeline for construction. And while Nike saw small sales boosts in its fiscal first quarter, profits, turns out, are down as the company works through old inventory. Revenue came in at nearly $12 billion, beating expectations, though earnings fell 31%. The company says some areas are doing well, like North America and running shoes, but China and online sales, well, they are still struggling. This comes as the company restructures, laying off 2% of its global workforce and shifting focus to sports and performance. Matt?
All right, David. Boy, this cold front has been performing just fine by cold front standards. In fact, it has been very windy at the coast. 57 degrees right now in Lincoln City, but look at this. The wind is gusting at 40 miles an hour. You can see the camera shaking around a bit. And yes, of course, there's been rain, although rain not falling there at the moment. So some of the peak wind gusts from today, of course, it's all been at the coast. We had some breezy conditions in the valleys, but nothing really significant. But Newport had a gust of 53, Lincoln City a gust of 51, Salishan a gust of 45, Yachats a gust of 43, and down in Southern Oregon, Gold Beach 47. So yeah, it's been rock and roll on the Oregon coast during the day today. Now, here's the wind gust forecast, and you can see they're still up between 35 and 40 miles an hour for a few hours tonight. They're going to begin to settle down as we go into the overnight hours, and tomorrow generally below 25 miles an hour. A couple of gusts around 20 miles an hour in the valley, but again, the most significant wind at the coast and this evening. There's been some pretty good swells out there, 15, 18 feet along the Oregon coast. It is that time of the year where the waves get big. So showery and cool right on through Thursday, windy at times at the coast, as we talked about, but it dries out on Friday. Pleasant weekend. In fact, quite the warm up on the way, David. More on that later.
Hey, weekend sounds great. Thanks, Matt.